Thanks to AG1 for sponsoring this video. Hey, welcome back to ScreenCrush. I'm Ryan Airy, and let's talk about the ending to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Now, spoiler alert for the entire movie. The big surprise here is that no one died. Not Rocket, not Drax, heck, even the High Evolutionary is still alive. But even without major deaths, Volume 3 was heartbreaking and heartwarming all at the same time. What an ending for this incredible trilogy. So, I want to explain the ending of Volume 3 and where the movie leaves us with the Guardians. First of all, what happened to Rocket?
Did he go to heaven? And did he go to heaven?
Well, we're going to explain all of that. And also, Lila kind of implies that there's a higher intelligence who's been guiding Rocket for his entire life. The hands that move the hands, so to speak.
I'm no puppeteer, Kevin.
So we're going to talk about that higher intelligence and what plans it might have for Rocket Raccoon. Also, Groot talking now, we're going to talk about how that happened and did Volume 3 just go full Deadpool on us. And we're also going to explain the two end credit scenes, which are the new Guardians, and whether or not it really is the last time we see some of the old Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, before we get to that ending, let's start explaining what everybody wants to know. What in the hell happened to Rocket, and what was the place that he went to when he died? Alright, now at the start of the movie, Adam Warlock attacks the Guardians and injures Rocket. This whole movie is about saving Rocket from death. The Guardians cannot heal him because of his unique cybernetics, which were created by the High Evolutionary. Despite the Guardians getting what they need to crack the code for Rocket's tech, they fail to save him. He flatlines, and it appears like he actually dies, because Rocket finds himself in this bright white realm that reminds me a lot of the scene when Gandalf returns to life. And of course, this also looks very similar to the Afterlife King's Cross Station from Harry Potter.
Is this all real? Or is it just happening inside my head?
Anyways, inside the Afterlife place, Rocket meets his friends from the past, including Lila. Those friends are the other animals that were experimented on by the High Evolutionary. Rocket wants to go with them, essentially to die, but Lila tells him that it's not his time yet, that he still has some things to do in the land of the living. And then she adds that there might be an actual capital G God who has plans for Rocket, and everything that happened was part of that plan. Now after this, Rocket comes back to life.
So, that happened.
And by the way, everyone, I have taken up running.
Where? To the fridge to get some more fudge?
Doug, take over for a second. I'm going to do a lap around the store.
Oh, geez. Okay, well, I guess it's just me. Just Doug. Gonna talk about all this stuff we're gonna talk about right now.
And I'm back.
Oh, thank goodness I do get the stage fright. Hey, what are you drinking there?
Oh, this is my daily dietary supplement called AG1. They're the sponsor of this video. So I've been drinking AG1 for about a year now, and it's made a really big difference in my day-to-day life.
Does it taste nice?
Yeah, it sure does, but more importantly, it's a nutritional drink with all the vitamins and minerals that I need to get through the entire day. It has 75 different ingredients, including vitamins, minerals, superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens. Now for me, I use it for two things. One, it gives me energy, but this isn't like a caffeine rush. It's a sustained energy throughout the entire day, which helps me to stay focused. I get more done, I finish work on time, and then I'm less stressed at 5 o'clock. Honestly, I don't know how these Easter egg videos would get done if I didn't have AG1 to get me through that midday hump.
Well, what's the second thing you use it for?
Exercise. For workout recovery, this is the best nutritional drink that I've ever used. I recover faster, and the high magnesium cuts down on muscle soreness. It is also very easy to use. You just do 1 scoop, 8 ounces of water, add in some of this vitamin D, shake, and you're done.
Say, that is easy.
So, if you sign up with our link in the description, you get a free 1-year supply of the immune-supporting vitamin D3 plus K2 plus 5 travel packs with your first purchase. Just click the link in the description to get started on your first purchase of AG1. Now back to what I was saying. So before we talk about what God Lila was referring to, and yes, like most things in the MCU, it is a multiple choice kind of explanation, let's first explain this animal afterlife. So to put it plainly, Rocket died, and for a moment he went to heaven. And that's because all animals go to heaven.
All dogs go to heaven because unlike people, dogs are naturally good.
So it's real heaven?
Well, that depends on how you define the afterlife. I mean, let's not forget that the Guardians appeared in Thor: Love and Thunder, the same movie that dealt with gods. A movie that ended with Jane Foster dying and her soul being sent to Valhalla, the Asgardian afterlife. So I guess it's not that far-fetched that Rocket's spirit visited the afterlife.
Yeah, but which one?
Well, now that's a good question, because in the MCU there are many variations of the spirit world. There's the ancestral plane. That's where the spirits of the Black Panthers who consume the heart-shaped herb are sent to. There's also the astral dimension that can be entered with magic, and it's apparently the same reality as the ancestral plane. Also, Soul World. It's a reality that exists inside the Soul Stone, and there are souls that exist inside the realm. That's where Gamora's soul exists. Then there's the Duat from Moon Knight. That's the Egyptian underworld, and it includes the Field of Reeds.
That's a field that has a lot of Mr. Fantastics?
Nope, that's the Egyptian heaven, but nice one, high five. Also, Hell, the less glamorous version of Valhalla, that is where the dead from the 9 realms go. And we also see a glimpse of what looks like Hell in the Multiverse of Madness. That's the realm of the Lord of the Bees!
Oh, Lord of the Bees!
Not the beast!
Sorry, I meant Mephisto. So the afterlife is real in the MCU. When people die, their souls are sent to other dimensions. That being said, Rocket's afterlife doesn't look like any of these other dimensions. However, in Moon Knight, a nice hippo goddess explains that mortals cannot comprehend the afterlife, so it appears as something familiar. Or it's a reality that we have not seen yet in the MCU, like the Realm Between from the comics. It's basically Marvel's purgatory.
So what about this God guy? Who's that?
Well, that's a very loaded subject, and I'm not sure I'm qualified to answer that question.
A celestial like a god?
Small g, son.
Now, first of all, just to clarify, it doesn't seem like Lila is referring to the High Evolutionary as any kind of god. He might have created beings and he might consider himself a god, but he's no god. He's just some psycho whose
Mother didn't love him, rationalizing why he needs to conquer the universe.
So, Marvel Comics does have a depiction of God, and that is Yahweh. But based on the fact that we are in the Multiverse saga, Lila might be referring to the One Above All. As the name suggests, the One Above All is an omnipotent being that controls the entire multiverse. He's the source of everyone and everything in existence, and he can manipulate and rewrite reality. Also, in more than one occasion, the One Above All was depicted as the legendary artist and creator Jack Kirby.
But why did he bring Rocket back?
Well, that's a very rude question to ask. Gods work in mysterious ways and all that, and you can't question that kind of stuff.
I'm God.
Well, okay, I guess if it is the One Above All who's pulling the multiversal strings, then he must have had a reason to give Rocket a second chance at life. Now, while the One Above All didn't appear in the MCU yet, we have seen his servant, the Living Tribunal, in Multiverse of Madness, and a statue of him here in Thor: Love and Thunder, and also in Loki. The Living Tribunal represents and enforces the multiversal law of the One Above All. Also, the Living Tribunal is the boss of Eternity.
That Cosmic Toes guy?
Yes, Eternity is the Cosmic Toes guy from Thor: Love and Thunder. He and his sister Infinity are the embodiments of the universe. Eternity, Infinity, as well as Death and Entropy are the cosmic entities that appear on the wall of the relief sculpture in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1. The same mural also depicts the Infinity Stones. So if this afterlife was meant to hint at the One Above All, then Volume 3 took a major and unexpected deep dive into the multiverse. Now with all that in mind, it's possible that Rocket's afterlife scene actually connects to Kang. After all, the Multiverse saga is leading to Avengers: The Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars. Now, if it was Kang, it wasn't the version that we met in Quantumania. I'm talking about He Who Remains, who appeared in Loki. He is a version of Kang who eons ago won a multiversal war and created a universe called the Sacred Timeline, meaning that he killed all of the other Kangs, and there's another multiversal war on the horizon.
They're beginning to touch the multiverse. And if we let them, they will take everything we've built.
The Sacred Timeline was a universe that existed separate from the multiverse, and every moment in time was controlled by He Who Remains. He enforced that the timeline would play out exactly the way it was supposed to. Rocket wasn't supposed to die because it went against the flow of time, so He Who Remains corrected that mistake. Rocket must keep living for some important outcome in the future. Sort of like how Tony Stark had to be the one who did the snap in Endgame because that was how things were meant to play out. That being said, He Who Remains is dead now, and the Sacred Timeline was unraveled into infinite other universes. This is how there is a multiverse, but certain events in the multiverse must still happen, since He Who Remains predicted that everything that happened eons ago will repeat itself.
An infinite amount of me start another multiversal war, and I just end up right back here anyways.
Meaning that time keeps looping in on itself. So Rocket's return was something that He Who Remains set in stone because it's part of this crazy chain of events that must happen in the multiversal timeline. Or heck, we never know, she might have been just referring to Kevin. So Rocket returns to become the new leader of the Guardians of the Galaxy, and perhaps Rocket will be essential in stopping some new cosmic or multiversal threat. Also, of all the beings that High Evolutionary created, Rocket was the only one who was free thinking. All of High Evolutionary's other creations lacked this trait, which is why he considered all of them to be imperfect. So there's something very unique about Rocket, and at some point this ingenuity could save the multiverse.
Oh, what the hell? I don't got that long a lifespan anyway.
All that being said, Rocket's trip to the afterlife might not be connected to anything spiritual or even the multiverse. It might have been some simulation vision connected to his cybernetics, a matrix-like reality inside his mind, something that even the High Evolutionary couldn't foresee. And an essence of his friends, who are also artificially enhanced, exists in that simulation. So in a way, actually, Rocket's friends are always with him, and they were there for him to give him the willpower to return to the land of the living. This simulation inside of his mind could just simply be used to reboot Rocket if his body were to die. In case he ever flatlined, his mind retreats to this little space, and then he reboots and he's back in the land of the living. Or I guess it just might have been something simpler and it was just an actual deathbed vision hallucination. And the whole vision could take place in his mind, sort of like his subconscious convincing him to not let go and to keep living for more. But we don't even know if James Gunn intended this moment to be something that actually had an impact on the greater MCU, or if it's just like a sweet personal moment for Rocket. I guess we're just not meant to know the answer, sort of like the ending of Inception. And considering that he did find the will to return and live his life, and now lead a new Guardians team, you could say that his near-death experience provided him with a new purpose and perspective on life. And this connects to Volume 3's themes about second chances. Adam Warlock started the movie as a bad guy, but in the end, he gets a second chance and becomes a hero. Drax gets a second chance to become a father. Nebula gets a second chance to help children who were experimented on by the High Evolutionary, just like she was by Thanos. Mantis gets a second chance to find her true self, and Peter gets a second chance to go back to Earth and find new meaning after he's been running for his entire life. Gamora literally gets a second chance at life since she is actually from the past and she's died in the present day. And Rocket gets a second chance to live again and become the leader of the Guardians to protect the galaxy from horrible people like the High Evolutionary. Rocket even embracing his full comic book name, Rocket Raccoon, is a sign that he has finally come full circle with his story.
What's a raccoon?
What's a raccoon? It's what you are, stupid.
Ain't no thing like me except me.
He's embracing his roots as a raccoon, but he's not letting his tragic backstory define him.
I'm done running.
And that is a beautiful end for Rocket Raccoon's story. And by the way, everybody, check out this brand new Oh Yeah tee featuring Doug in a pose just like Rocket. You can get this and more at our merch store. Shopping our merch store is the best way you can help to support our channel. We have lots of awesome t-shirts like this original trilogy tee, your top 5 tee, Somehow Palpatine Returned, and many more. Just check it out at shopzeroedition.com/ScreenCrush or click the link in the description. Now back to what I was saying. Now, speaking of endings, let's talk about the end of Volume 3 and where the story leaves the Guardians. The movie ends with the Guardians of the Galaxy breaking up and going their separate ways.
But why? The galaxy still needs Guardians.
True, and we will talk about the new Guardians in just a moment. But first, let's talk about why they split up. They've come a long way from being criminals, loners, and losers. They are a family of cosmic heroes. And at the start of Volume 3, nowhere is their base of operation. That's the severed head of a Celestial that can shoot beams from its eyes, kind of like a more friendly Death Star. So things were actually going really well for the Guardians, except for Peter, at the beginning. But at the end of the movie, after they defeat the High Evolutionary, the Guardians decide to go their separate ways.
But why?
Well, it's bittersweet because on one hand, it's sad that this might be the last time we see some of these characters together. But on the other hand, some of them arrive at a satisfying conclusion or start a new chapter in their lives.
But a thing isn't beautiful because it lasts.
Now, we knew for a while that Volume 3 would be the end of this trilogy and the end for some of the Guardians. Zoe Saldana and Dave Bautista confirmed that they won't return as Gamora and Drax. Now, in Gamora's case, she's from the 2014 timeline. After Endgame, she joined the Ravager crew of Stakar Ogord. Now, Nebula hires Gamora to help the Guardians save Rocket, but she was only a temporary member of the team. So it's not the same Gamora that the Guardians knew. Think about it. Nebula was Gamora's sister, but for Nebula, it's been over 10 years since the ending of Volume 2 when she and Gamora embraced as sisters. So, from Gamora's point of view, her sister is a completely different person at this point. Now, Gamora forms connections with the other Guardians and especially with Rocket, but it makes sense for her to leave and go off on her own adventure, separate from the other Guardians, because this frees her from being burdened by the past of a different version of herself. Now, in the case of Drax, his ending is actually very wholesome. There's something very tragic about Drax. I mean, at this point, he sort of acts like an annoying child.
Drax, sit up!
That's what it's here for.
Drax, it's called a sofa. It's not a bed.
I find it hard to believe it doesn't have multiple purposes.
But Mantis defends Drax and says that even though he's big and dumb, he always makes them laugh. He had a family, and because of his innate kindness, he's really good with the children they save from the High Evolutionary. It's a fitting end for his arc to become a father instead of a destroyer. Now, on paper, Nebula joining Drax kind of feels strange. She did start understanding him thanks to Mantis, who is way wiser than anybody would give her credit for before this movie. But don't forget that the children they freed from the High Evolutionary mirror Nebula herself. She was taken by Thanos as a child. He punished her for failing by replacing her whole body with cybernetics. So if there's anybody who can understand and help these kids, it's her. Now, while this is the end for Drax, it doesn't mean that it's the last we've seen of Nebula. She could always return for more stories, leaving Drax to be a stay-at-home dad. And Nebula is way too awesome to never come back. Mantis decides to leave and find out who she really is on her own. So for the longest time, she was a servant for Ego, and then she joined the Guardians. She never really got to spread her own wings. Also, with her abilities, Mantis is really powerful. She's pretty much Professor X now. She could alter how others feel, like making everybody love Drax. But it's also more than emotions. She actually makes people change their whole behavior.
You would love to come with us.
Hey, where are we going?
This ability goes back to the comics. Mantis psychically nudged the other Guardians to become a team and follow Star-Lord. And she befriends the Aboleths who High Evolutionary was experimenting on. In case you forgot, the Guardians protected the Sovereign from one of these Aboleths in Volume 2. These are multi-dimensional beings, and they might be far more important for the cosmic side of the MCU and the multiverse. I won't get into it right now, but we have a video coming out in just a few days about why Mantis is going to be way more important than you think, and how she connects to this entire multiverse situation. So be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on that video. I will say that I'm extremely excited to see Mantis go off on her own, because in the comics, she's got a vast and weird history that I cannot wait to see play out on the big screen. Now, of all the Guardians, it does seem like Groot has the most story left to tell, since he's the least developed character among them. But also, I guess Groot can talk now, because at the end of the movie, he clearly says, "I love you guys."
Oh, okay, so Groot talks now.
Well, that's the thing. None of the Guardians reacted to Groot talking. This might be the MCU breaking the fourth wall, because we, the audience, might understand Groot now. So while everybody else hears, "I am Groot."
Fourth wall break inside a fourth wall break. That's like 16 walls.
Also, Groot is a big boy now. He's gotten huge in the credits scene. Now, while the future is uncertain for most of the Guardians, one of them is confirmed to return, and that is Star-Lord. All the Guardians arrive to a fulfilling conclusion except Peter. At the start of the movie, he was getting blind drunk over his dead girlfriend. Star-Lord just couldn't get over Gamora. And to make things worse, there's a new Gamora who's from the past, but she's not his Gamora.
I miss you so much. Maybe if you open yourself up to it, there's a possibility.
I don't think so, Quinn.
This is why I was relieved that the movie had the Spaceballs to avoid giving Peter and Gamora a forced romantic reunion. The Gamora Peter loved died over 4 years ago.
But what is grief? If not love, persevering.
And this is the reason why Peter had to leave and find out who he really is. It's like Mantis tells him he's only been hopping from lily pad to lily pad his entire life, and he needs to learn to swim. Meaning that he needs to stop depending so much on romantic connections with women, because he needs to understand himself outside of a romantic relationship. Seriously, Peter was hitting on every lady he met in this movie. He even gave Nebula the puppy eyes.
Just never noticed how black your eyes were.
They were replaced by my father as a method of torture.
He picked a pretty set.
When a guy tries hitting on his dead ex's sister while the past version of his ex is standing right next to you, you know the guy's got some issues. Good thing he went to Earth, because with the rate he was going, he would have ended up dating Cosmo. Now, on top of dealing with this grief over Gamora, Peter is still dealing with the death of his mom and of Yondu. This is why he avoided visiting his grandfather on Earth, because he believes that everybody close to him dies. So the way Peter's story concludes in Volume 3 doesn't feel like an end. It reminds me of Thor's midlife crisis at the end of Endgame. And as the post-credit scene confirms, Star-Lord will return. And whatever's going to be his next chapter in the MCU, hopefully he's going to finally figure his shit out. But for now, he's going to eat some breakfast cereal with his granddad. So, is Peter going to become an Earth-based hero now? Or is he going to replace the guardianing with gardening? I would totally watch a Disney Plus show about Star-Lord getting accustomed to Earth life.
What does this do?
Now, in all seriousness, there is going to be some big stuff happening on Earth in the coming years, like the Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars. So Peter might have returned to Earth just in time to join the Avengers. And speaking of superhero teams, Rocket became the captain and leader of a new Guardians, and Groot obviously joins him. The team also includes Kraglin, Adam Warlock, his pet Blurp, and the girl the Guardians save from the High Evolutionary. Now, the credits reveal that this girl is Phyla Vel, and she's a powerful addition to the Guardians. Now first, let's talk about Adam freaking Warlock real quick. Adam is one of my all-time favorites, and he's one of the most powerful and important cosmic beings in the comics. The Soul Stone is jammed in his forehead, and he is heavily connected to the other Infinity Stones. Also, he has this really cool frenemy relationship with Thanos, but a lot of that was changed for the movie. Adam was created by Aisha from the Sovereign. Those are the gold people from Volume 2. But it's revealed that the Sovereign were actually created by the High Evolutionary, so by proxy, he created Adam as well. And the gem in his head is just a gem, but he's very powerful and seems to radiate energy from his entire body. So the MCU got a new powerful cosmic hero, and I'm sure that we will see more of Adam in the future. We will go over Adam in more detail in just a few days. And with Adam and Phyla Vel joining the team, it means that all of the founding members of the Guardians of the Galaxy from the comics have been part of the MCU's team as well. Speaking of, in the comics, Phyla Vel is a Kree/Titan hybrid. And yes, Titan as in Thanos. Her mother was Elysius, a Titanian Eternal. It's a bit more complicated than that, since Elysius genetically engineered her children, Phyla Vel and her brother Genis Vel. She spliced Titan DNA with the Kree blood of Captain Marvel, aka the original Captain Marvel from the comics. And don't forget that a gender swap version of Marvel appeared in Captain Marvel. On top of that, there is a time in the comics where Phyla Vel became Captain Marvel. So that can be a big connection to the Marvels and also to to the Eternals. Don't forget, in the end credit scene for the Eternals, we see Star Fox, aka Eros, Thanos' brother.
The Royal Prince of Titan, brother of Thanos.
And for all we know, the High Evolutionary was inspired by the Celestials in his quest for creating his own genetically engineered perfect life. Phyla-Vell doesn't demonstrate any abilities in the movie, but she is a strong cosmic hero in the comics, and I'm sure that she will discover her abilities in the future. In the first credit scene, the new Guardians of the Galaxy talk about music as they wait to deal with a horde of alien animals. It kind of looks like they're about to kill them all, so that's kind of sad. But also, seeing this horde made me immediately think of Mufasa's death, so I guess, sure, kill them all.
They're like animals, and I slaughtered them like animals.
So they are the new Guardians of the Galaxy.
Well, that's a good question because James Gunn confirmed that Volume 3 will be the end of the Guardians as we know them. But nothing ever ends in the MCU, so the credits scene totally sets up a new Guardians of the Galaxy. Now that being said, it is highly unlikely that James Gunn will return to the franchise or to the MCU, because James Gunn is now very busy building up the DCU. However, the Guardians will most likely return in some form in the future. It could be this new team, and there might be additional cosmic heroes joining the Guardians in the future, kind of like Nova. And guys, we have so many videos planned to talk about this movie. We're going to go over what's next for the Guardians of the Galaxy and what other stories they could appear in throughout the future of the MCU. Anyways, this is everything that happened in the ending of Volume 3. But now it's your turn. What do you think is going to happen to Rocket? What will happen to the Guardians of the Galaxy? And do you want to see more stories with these characters in the future?
This drink, I like it.
I know, it's great, right?
Another!
And I just want to remind everybody to click our link in the description to get a deal on your first pack of AG1. But we want to know what you guys think of all this. Let me know in the comments below or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe, smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.